Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode number 88. In this episode, I'll be chatting with the jewelry collector and commenter, Kylie, also known as OK Fine, 6 underscores. We'll discuss her engaging content and how she grew her following organically and authentically. I also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. In the bonus content of this episode, we'll be talking about which brands stand out to her the most and why. To get access to the exclusive content as well as direct access to me and Larissa, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey, Kylie, let's get into it.
Hey,
I'm very excited to have you here. First, let's have you introduce yourself.
I'm so excited. Can I first start off by saying I love how you included the 6 underscores when you said my username? Like, it's such a ridiculous detail, but yes, my name is Kylie. I'm an art director slash graphic designer based in New York, New Jersey. But through the past year, I've been putting way more time into my Instagram and TikTok account. Okay, fine. Again, 6 underscores because it's dramatic and hard to remember. I post about my journey collecting fine jewelry and all the joys that come with it.
I love that. I included the 6 underscores because you are very detail oriented. And I think that I was talking to a designer about you a little bit, and I was like, something that I think we all connect to you about is that you're quirky and you share your quirks. Like you're a little bit anon, which is cool. But you share these kind of quirks about you that make you very relatable.
Oh, thank you. I think quirky is a good thing. I'm just being me, okay? It's just the easiest thing to do. But thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah. And so I love your content. A lot of designers love your content. A lot of just collectors love your content. When did you start collecting jewelry and what do you love about it?
Ooh, a loaded question. But any charm adjacent thing I was obsessed with growing up. I still have like my Juicy Couture charms and some novelty charm bracelets that were gifted to me for every birthday and holiday. Even my mom's like 80s plastic clip and bell charms. Like I love tinkering with those. So it's funny to see how little I have changed, but the materials have upgraded. To me, jewelry is like wearable tiny miniatures, which I think a lot of people also relate to, but I can wear it and I could carry it with me and touch throughout my very boring day. But now on like a day to day, I sling on a long chain with like 15 charms. It's like way down. I'm constantly touching it. It's comforting to me to touch them and all. I lost my thought. It's comforting me to touch them all and sort them out while typing emails and editing layouts. But growing up, I was always beelining to any and all accessories displays to strum all the chains hanging down. I've been collecting all my life, but I think it really blossomed into this level of a hobby within the last 8 years or so. But I'm fully blaming my mom for passing along the collector gene. My earliest memories were me begging her to pull out her box of vintage articulated charms for me to ogle and cherish for hours before she'd lock them back up. I spend way too much time opening and closing each one very, very carefully, appreciating their details, using my little nails to open the ones she couldn't with her big red acrylics. Um, but yeah, I remember her visiting me in second grade and doing her little routine of explaining that her antique mourning ring had real human hair inside and the looks of disgust that would follow from my classmates. And yeah, it just never stopped.
That's amazing. For me, it was my grandmother. She had like thimbles. She had like this thimble display, and
Ooh,
she had this like big box of costume jewelry that she'd let me play with. And she always had these like big button earrings that would match like her outfit. So she'd wear like a full green suit and then have like big green button earrings to match.
I love that. My grandma was a big hoop wearer. She'd wear a lot of door knocker earrings. And when she passed, I was like, where are all of those? I would love to do something with those, but I don't know where they are. But that was kind of my grandma's thing.
Yeah, I love that. And so when did you start posting about your jewelry collection on social media?
I started the Instagram in 2020 because I was following so many brands, designers, and collectors on my personal account that I wasn't seeing any of my actual friends or family's posts. So I thought it'd be nice to create my own special jewelry land where all of that content can live separately from baby photos and brunch pics. But yeah, I also followed some collectors who posted those beautiful styling jewelry of the day images, and I thought it would be nice to post a little jewelry journal. That's hard to say
That's
on
hard to say.
yeah, on the new account since my photo library was filled to the brim and I had to let some of that out. So that's how that started.
And how do you think about it? Because your content, there are a lot of people posting like their collection styled, but yours comes across different and specific to you. How do you think about creating your content?
It's changed a bit since now there's been more eyes on my pages lately. Before August 2023, which is when I joined TikTok, I was just posting willy-nilly, treating my posts as a journal to catalog looks or images that I didn't want to forget. Once I started the TikTok, I soon naturally found my buckets, like my content buckets that my content just fit into. From there, I wanted to establish a pattern to avoid getting too repetitive. For instance, I create a lot of like DIY videos because I love relining jewelry boxes. So for me, I tried to avoid posting too many of those videos near each other. But I would classify my content buckets as styling, solo stories, unboxing, storage, DIYs. And then there's the more talky, idea-based videos centered around my quote unquote philosophy behind mindful consumption and collecting. I also like to keep room open for requests from followers. So when people are like, hey, Kylie, what can you fit inside that tiny jewelry box charm? What a great idea. Let's see. And I'll record it. I once heard someone saying that your comment section is your content, and I think that that's definitely a great starting point. But in terms of keeping my ideas organized, I use Notion to organize every thought I've ever had. For content, I pin specific video ideas in their digital calendar, which I like to wait, what's my sentence here? For content?
I love that you have content buckets.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I mean, as a marketer, Larissa would appreciate this too. She's not here right now. She's traveling, which is
Yeah.
why I'm doing this solo. But she, as a marketer, me as a marketer, we love content buckets.
Yeah,
Maybe into like content.
I work in advertising, and before this I was doing some marketing stuff, so I feel like what I was doing before what I do now really colors my perspective and take on this. Like I wasn't seeking out to start this as a thing, like it just kind of happened, and my way of thinking and the way I've learned to deal with social media has definitely influenced how I approach it. um but yeah, that's kind of how I handle content.
And do you have any specific goals for your platforms?
I think it's important to note that I didn't really aim to launch OK Fine in this way of growing and turning it into what it is. I had the Instagram for years, but it wasn't until I joined TikTok that things really started to pick up. It's funny because the only reason I ever joined TikTok was to be able to comment on my favorite creators' accounts from a jewelry collector perspective and not my personal account, which was what I was doing. I wasn't even planning on making content. I was so scared of figuring out TikTok and editing and voiceovers. It was all so overwhelming at first. But I think I still keep it very simple production wise. But the more videos I make, the more I'm building that muscle and the easier it gets. I'm sure if I wanted Okay Fine to be a larger, fuller time job, I'd probably look at my goals more strategically. I guess my goals now at this point is to continue building relationships and trust with my followers, continue producing videos and images that I'm proud of, and hopefully open more opportunities to collaborate on creating jewelry. My first collab is launching in a few days, so that's very exciting to me. But in terms of growth and engagement goals, I would be happy honestly staying exactly where I am. I think people put too much value on quantity instead of quality in both content, followers, and engagement. I was just as happy with 3,000 followers that I am with I think I'm approaching 30 on Instagram, but I will say the uptick in followers has helped open opportunities for me. So for that, I'm very thankful, but I'm very fine staying where I am. I'm having a good time and enjoying it.
I love that. I'm very excited for your first collab, which but when this comes out, it will have been launched and all of that. But I love collaborations. I think that's such a fun thing and obviously so natural for you to collab with the jewelry designer.
Yeah, I'm so excited, especially because I'm a very creative person. I work with my hands a lot. I also work in a very creative industry. So I don't know if I approached the collab how people typically do, or if I was too hands-on or too nitpicky, or I literally sculpted it with my hands. But by the time this comes out, pictures will be out. But I had a lot of fun with it.
That's amazing. I actually a question I mentioned to a designer I was going to be chatting with you for this podcast and she's like my question for her is how does she have the time? Like especially with like you doing the jewelry boxes, like styling the posts, doing the videos, like you also have a job, like a full-time job. How do you
Yeah.
have the time?
Great question. And I think it's important to note that before I was putting all this time into Okay Fine, I had like a side hobby business as well that I've kind of jumped ship a little bit and ignored to
Wasn't
put.
it ceramics?
Yeah, but I try not to talk about it too much because I don't know, I like to keep my worlds very separate.
Sure.
But I work from home. I owe it all to working from home. If people from my 9 to 5 hear this and they're like, Kylie, you need some more projects on your plate, then that's a different story. But I don't know. I owe it all to being able to work from home and I work very fast in my day job. If I could get my work done, then I have time to do whatever I need to do. I will say that since the summer months are coming along, the sunniest, best light in my house is after work ends. So around like 5 through 7, I have really good light to
Golden
shoot
hour.
content. And then I
Yeah.
like to shoot my voiceovers like in the dead of night when no one else is around and no one else is walking or barking. Um, but that's how I do that. But it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. How do you, because there's a lot of people on Instagram, and I'm an elder millennial, so TikTok scares me
Yeah,
still.
that's totally fair.
I've dipped my toe and I'm still scared. But
Me
how do you
too.
think about Instagram and TikTok differently? And do you post unique content on each platform?
So I was originally prioritizing posting my longer content on TikTok and keeping things kind of curated on Instagram just because I was getting more traffic on TikTok and my content over there is monetized through their creator program. But once I started cross-posting my longer TikToks to Instagram, my Instagram engagement started to really improve, which I guess is a good thing now that TikTok might be disappearing. But in terms of unique content, I do think the audiences are totally different in both spaces. The jewelry community on Instagram is very well established. I'm sure, a lot of people are already educated on what's what and kind of know how to dig and find a trail of similar accounts or sellers. Whereas on TikTok, there was no jewelry presence up until creators like Jewel Boxing started posting, aside from the occasional jewelry tour videos from other creators. On TikTok, content gets pushed out to people via the For You page, meaning people don't have to follow you to see your content. Sometimes your videos can reach a viewer who doesn't collect jewelry, but they see something interesting and want to learn more. Because of that, I think there are more educational opportunities there, or also just more curiosity from a newer league of collectors who are dipping their toes into the fine jewelry world for the first time and need a quote unquote trusted friend figure to kind of share their experiences.
Yeah, that's so true. That's the way I see TikTok as well. It's like the younger generation who are just getting into collecting fine jewelry. So like educating them on how to do it, which is something that you do a little bit in your content, I think is the best thing to be sharing there, right?
Yeah, I do it a little bit. I don't make it a main focus of my content because there's so many more educated educators out there to tell people the difference between 14 karat and 9 karat gold and why it's better, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but yeah, people are definitely curious, and I think I'm on the cusp of millennial Gen Z, so I feel like I can kind of talk to
Speak to
both
both.
audiences.
Cool. And you're so authentic. Like I'd mentioned at the top of this, just like your quirkiness and how like you're very much you. And I want everyone to hear this because you are a little bit anonymous. So you don't have to be showing your face. You don't have to be talking to camera, but you can still get across who you are as a brand and who you are as a person. And I think that that's something really special that you do and are able to do. Why is authenticity so important to how you share on social media?
I think, well, first off, thank you. I think by me not being an expert in social media and ignoring what I should be doing as a creator, it's the reason for my success. It's led me to just being me and doing whatever I want to do. A lot of folks who have found success on TikTok suggest you have to post every day to succeed. You have to use trending audio to get views. And I just don't think either of those are true. The FYP, the algorithm is changing all the time. It's so frustrating. It's very not reliable. So the best thing to do is to just be yourself and say what you want to say.
Yeah, and just being you leads to more engagement too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm always creating content. I'm always creating my content from the angle of would I want to watch this? Is this pretty to look at? Does this tell a story? What's the point of the words I'm saying? And I think by leading with that mindset, the posts I end up creating are really just what I wanted to say at the end of the day, edited nicely and wrapped in a bow. It's always storytelling. If I was on a schedule of saying something every single day, the quality of my content would not be the same. If I were using trendy songs to show my neck stack, that's just not saying anything that I would want to seek out. I think it's also important to note that I try not to let other videos in the space influence what I share with my audience to avoid it becoming like a echo chamber and keeping my content original. But if I end up posting something that is authentic to me and it gets less views than usual, I make a little mental note, but I pay attention to the patterns of what my audience wants to see more of, but it doesn't deter me from playing and exploring other kinds of content if I'm feeling creative.
What has been your like most successful post or type of post?
It's so interesting because they're not jewelry related. I mean, they are. My top performing video, which hit 1 million views last week, is about my mom's Polly Pocket collection,
I
which I
would have
thought
guessed that.
yeah, I thought people would enjoy it because, jewelry's little small things that open and close and details, etc. So I figured, okay, people probably like this. And they did. It took a long time to edit that video. I'm so glad it did well. My second top video, again, it's a very nostalgic video that did well. It was going over those Juicy Couture charms that I have. I think I have maybe like 12, but people ate it up. People really related to it. But you asked about engagement, and the engagement thing is fascinating because it's really not something that I pay attention to. If this were a full-time job for me, I probably would. But I think for the level of commitment that I am to OK Fine right now, this is just a fun hobby for me. It's a creative outlet. And the moment I start over analyzing numbers and metrics, that's when it becomes a job and becomes stressful. And then I get hard on myself and then I'm discouraged and don't want to do it. But that's probably not what your listeners want to hear. So I will say on the engagement front, my screen time is abysmal. It's embarrassing. But it's because I truly love interacting with everyone who takes the time to comment or ask a question. I really try to prioritize building connections with the people who show up and enjoy what I'm putting out there. I want to talk to them because at the end of the day, that's why I started these accounts to engage with the larger jewelry community. Some of my favorite interactions come from when I host AMAs, Ask Me Anythings via Instagram stories because everyone shows up. I think I'm almost at 30,000. So I get a wide range of questions from people who are very familiar with my content and collection to someone who just stumbled upon my page and just wants to know where the damn ring is from. I try to take my time to answer as many as I can. It'll usually take up my entire day, but I really don't mind because I love talking about jewelry. I always have. But I recognize saying talk to people to get better engagement is an obnoxious thing to hear when you have a million other tasks as an entrepreneur or a maker. But I do think it's important to prioritize communicating with the people who are interested in your product in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it's not obnoxious. It's 100% what I recommend too. I know it's hard. I know there's like a lot of things on your plate, but the one-on-one, the conversations happening in the DMs, like that's what's leading to sales. That's what's leading to fans and people taking people from followers to fans, to people who
1,000%.
care about what you're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So, is there anything that you love seeing from jewelry brands, or do you have any thoughts on how jewelry designers can share their story in a more engaging way?
Okay, yes. I truly believe personality is your strongest brand asset. I love behind the scenes process videos, hearing from the designer's point of view. It's ironic because I personally don't show my face or share much of my personal life, but when I see brands making stories with a relaxed, here's what's going on today at the bench, or here's a peek into our new packaging. What do you guys think? I eat that up. It makes me feel special that you're letting me in. It's kind of like building a little friendship. It's much more intimate than a perfectly polished product shot. That's what expands your brand from being a heavily product-centric brand and lays out a fuller story of how the jewelry your audience is coveting eventually lands on their bodies for years, and yes, converts them to being fans more than followers.
I love that too. I love seeing a bench. I love seeing a studio. I love
Yeah.
anything that's like more details about the designs or the collection too, right?
Yeah, when I look down at my hands, it feels good to know the story of the ring I wear every day and the person who made it. I can only speak for myself here, but I never get that feeling from a random ring from a big brand with a massive marketing budget. It's just totally different. The moment you add a story or history to a piece, it becomes more special. So I definitely think sharing your personality makes social media accounts feel less sterile, less like advertising. If I could say anything about my generation, we hate that feeling like we're being sold to. So the minute I get a feeling that someone is pushing something, I'm out. I'm scrolling. I know what you really want from me. The jig is up. But if it's a maker that I know, a designer who has shared the story behind the decisions that they've made, I'm much more receptive to the products that they're showcasing. I trust them more. And yeah,
I love that. Well, thanks for being here. And if you don't follow Kylie or OK six underscores fine yet, I really encourage it. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we hop in to chat with insiders?
I just want to say hi and thank you for listening and being here and being sweeties.
I love that. So, are you authentically showing up on social media? Let us know. Visit successwithjewelry.com. And if you love the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Send us a message or leave a review. Thanks for being a part of our community.